The sun had just risen over Willow Creek, a quiet, upscale neighborhood in Austin, Texas. Golden light filtered through the trees, casting a warm glow on the paved jogging path that wound through the community. Birds chirped a cheerful melody, and the air carried the fresh scent of morning dew. For Dr. Elena Martinez, this was her favorite time of day. Dressed in a sleek gray athletic outfit with wireless earbuds snugly in place, she jogged along the path at a steady pace, her breathing rhythmic and calm. These early morning runs were her chance to unwind and reflect before a busy day. At 42 years old, Elena was a respected cardiologist at Austin General Hospital. Her life was anything but ordinary, balancing a demanding career with her role as a single mother to her 10-year-old son, Mateo. She had little time for herself. These morning runs were her sanctuary, a moment to clear her mind and prepare for the challenges ahead. Recently, she had moved into the affluent Willow Creek neighborhood, not to flaunt her success, but for the peace it offered. It was a place where she could breathe, away from the noise and chaos of the city. With her favorite podcast on healthcare reform playing in her ears, Elena focused on the rhythm of her steps, letting the world melt away. But her peace was shattered when the sound of a slow-moving car broke her concentration. A police cruiser crawled along the jogging path's edge. Inside, Officer Ryan Carter gripped the steering wheel, his eyes narrowing as he watched Elena jog. To him, the sight of a Latina woman jogging in a predominantly white neighborhood didn't sit right. Ryan had patrolled Willow Creek for years and saw himself as a gatekeeper for the community. Raised by a father who had been a high-ranking officer, Ryan grew up believing authority wasn't just a responsibility, but a weapon to maintain order, or at least his version of it. Ryan's father had instilled in him a mindset that some people didn't belong in certain places, and Ryan had fully embraced that belief. As he watched Elena jog, his prejudice filled in the blanks. She must be up to no good, he thought, his mind concocting a scenario. Without a shred of evidence, he flipped on his lights and pulled his car to a stop ahead of her. Elena slowed her pace, raising an eyebrow at the patrol car blocking her path. A slight frown crossed her face as she pulled out one earbud. This wasn't the first time she'd been unfairly stopped, but it didn't make it any less frustrating. Little did Ryan know, the woman he was about to confront wasn't just another jogger. Ryan stepped out of his patrol car, his expression hard and unwelcoming. His uniform was crisp, and his posture exuded authority, but there was a sharp edge to his demeanor. "Hey, you," he barked, pointing toward Elena as she stopped jogging. "What are you doing here?" Elena furrowed her brow, confused by the hostility in his tone. She gestured to her workout clothes and the small water bottle strapped to her waist. "I'm jogging," she said simply, her voice calm and measured. Ryan wasn't having it. "Don't get smart with me," he snapped. "We got a report about a suspicious person matching your description. Trespassing and possibly involved in theft. Care to explain yourself?" Elena blinked, taken aback by the blatant accusation. "Excuse me? I live around here. I jog this path every morning." But Ryan didn't listen. He folded his arms and looked her up and down with suspicion. "You got any ID on you?" he demanded. Elena sighed, already feeling her patience being tested. "I left it at home. I wasn't expecting to need it for a run." Ryan smirked, as though he'd caught her in a lie. "Convenient. So, no proof you live here, no ID. You know what that looks like, right?" By now, a few onlookers had gathered at a safe distance, whispering and filming the exchange. Elena glanced at them, realizing this was quickly escalating into a scene. She took a deep breath, her voice steady but firm. "Officer, I'm telling you the truth. I live 2 blocks from here. This is a misunderstanding." Ryan stepped closer, towering over her. "Misunderstanding? Look, lady, I don't have time for games. Either you cooperate, or we're going to have a problem." Elena's jaw tightened. She didn't want to make this worse, but she also knew her rights. "Officer, I'm going to ask you to think carefully about what you're doing," she said, her tone quiet but laced with authority. "You're making a mistake." Ryan's eyes narrowed, mistaking her warning for defiance. "Oh, is that a threat? You think you can intimidate me?" He reached for his handcuffs. "Turn around. Hands behind your back." Elena didn't move. Her voice dropped lower, calm but unyielding. "Officer, I'm telling you to back off. You have no idea who I am." To Ryan, her composure only fueled his anger. He grabbed her arm, attempting to twist it behind her back, but Elena moved with surprising agility, slipping out of his grip with ease. The onlookers gasped, their phones capturing every second. Ryan was stunned for a moment before his face twisted in frustration. "That's resisting arrest," he shouted, reaching for his radio. Elena didn't flinch. She locked eyes with him, her expression calm and resolute. "No, officer. That's me reminding you that you've just crossed a line you can't uncross." Elena stepped into the patrol car with an air of composure that only aggravated Ryan further. She turned her head slightly to meet his gaze. "I warned you," she said softly, her voice steady. "You will regret this by the end of the day." Her cryptic words lingered in Ryan's mind as he slammed the car door shut. "Yeah, we'll see about that," he muttered under his breath, radioing for backup. His voice cracked slightly as he exaggerated the situation. "This is Officer Carter, Willow Creek. I've detained a suspect, violent, resisted arrest. Need backup immediately." The onlookers gasped in disbelief. "Violent? She didn't do anything." One woman yelled, her voice rising over the chatter. A man in the crowd called out, "We've got it all on video. You can't lie your way out of this." But Ryan ignored them, doubling down as he waved them away. "Clear the area. This is a police matter," he shouted. Elena sat quietly in the back of the patrol car, her expression unreadable. A faint smile tugged at the corner of her lips, one that Ryan couldn't see but would haunt him later. She watched as he tried to manage the growing crowd, the pressure mounting with every phone pointed in his direction. As the patrol car pulled away, the onlookers continued recording, shouting after Ryan that they would post the videos online. Elena leaned back in her seat, her calm demeanor unwavering. She knew the truth would catch up with Ryan faster than he could imagine. Back at the station, Ryan walked through the double doors with a smug sense of accomplishment. He still felt the eyes of the onlookers in Willow Creek on him, their judgment lingering in his mind, but he brushed it off. He had followed procedure, at least in his eyes. Now, it was time to process this suspect and move on with his day. Elena stepped out of the patrol car calmly, her wrists still cuffed but her head held high. Ryan led her into the booking area, ignoring her warnings and the curious stares of other officers. One for trespassing and resisting arrest, he announced loudly, slapping her paperwork onto the counter. She got a little feisty back there. Elena raised an eyebrow at his description, but said nothing. She simply watched as he fumbled through the forms, his confidence radiating like a beacon. She didn't have to say much. She knew what was coming. Ryan's sense of victory was short-lived. The station's main doors burst open and Captain Laura Hayes stormed in. Laura was a no-nonsense woman with sharp features and an air of authority that silenced the room the moment she entered. She clutched a tablet in one hand and a printout in the other, her jaw tight with anger. "Carter," she barked, her voice echoing through the station. Ryan froze mid-sentence, his pen hovering over the paperwork. He turned to face Laura, his smirk fading the moment he saw the look on her face. Captain Hayes," he stammered, trying to maintain his composure. "I was just processing." "Save it," Laura snapped, cutting him off. She slammed the tablet down on the counter, the screen displaying a live-stream video of Ryan's arrest of Elena. The footage had gone viral within minutes, showing Ryan's aggressive behavior and the bystanders' protests. Laura held up the paperwork Ryan had filed. "Trespassing, resisting arrest, feisty," she quoted, her voice dripping with disbelief and anger. "Do you even know who this is?" Ryan blinked, glancing nervously at Elena, who now wore a faint smile. She said she lived in the area, but she's... Dr. Elena Martinez, Laura interrupted, her voice sharp. A respected cardiologist at Austin General Hospital and a member of the hospital's ethics board. Your boss's boss's boss. Ryan's heart sank, his face draining of color. He turned to Elena, his mouth opening and closing as he struggled to form words. I didn't know. That much is clear, Laura said, her voice icy. You've just humiliated yourself, the station, and our entire department. You've made every mistake you possibly could in one encounter. Ryan's mind raced as the weight of his mistake crushed him. Elena stepped forward, her calm demeanor unwavering. I told you you'd regret this by the end of the day, she said quietly, her words cutting through the silence like a knife. Laura looked at Elena, her expression softening. We'll handle this, Dr. Martinez. Rest assured, this officer will face consequences. She shot Ryan a glare that made him shrink in place. Ryan's confidence crumbled as he realized the full extent of his actions. This wasn't just a bad day at work. This was a career-ending mistake. Underscore, 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 underscore. As the gravity of the situation set in, Laura turned to Elena. I'll leave this in your hands, she said firmly with a nod. Elena stepped forward, finally freed from the handcuffs by a visibly shaken officer. She adjusted her sleeves, her calm but commanding voice filling the room. I want an immediate review of Officer Carter's history, she said. Every stop, every report, every complaint filed against him. Her words sent a ripple through the room, and the officers nearby exchanged nervous glances. Ryan stood frozen, unable to respond. Laura snapped her fingers at another officer. Pull his file. Now. Within minutes, Ryan's record was laid bare on the station's computer. A disturbing pattern emerged. Multiple stops of Latino and minority individuals for minor or fabricated infractions, an alarming number of use-of-force incidents, and even ignored warnings from supervisors. Each piece of evidence painted a clear picture of a man unfit for his badge. Officer Ryan Carter, Elena began, her tone unwavering. You've not only violated my rights, but also betrayed the trust of this community and the integrity of the police force. This ends now. Laura stepped in, pulling the badge from Ryan's chest with one sharp motion. You're officially stripped of your badge and authority, effective immediately. Consider yourself suspended without pay, pending further charges. The room was silent except for the distant hum of the air conditioning. Ryan's face burned red as he stammered, But this isn't fair. I didn't know who she was. Elena turned to him, her expression both calm and cutting. You didn't have to know who I was. You only needed to treat me with the respect and fairness every citizen deserves. And you failed. Underscore, 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 underscore. Meanwhile, the video of the arrest, which had already been spreading across social media, reached national news outlets. Headlines like racial profiling gone wrong, cop arrests prominent doctor and justice in action, corruption exposed flooded the internet. The public was outraged, and calls for systemic reform grew louder with each passing hour. Elena faced the cameras outside the station later that day, standing tall with Captain Hayes beside her. This incident is not just about one bad officer, she said firmly. It's about a culture that allows this behavior to go unchecked. That stops now. We will hold every officer accountable. Starting here, the crowd cheered, their faith in change momentarily restored. Ryan, meanwhile, watched from the side, still in shock at how quickly his world had crumbled. Elena stepped forward, finally freed from the handcuffs by a visibly shaken officer. She adjusted her sleeves, her calm but commanding voice filling the room. "I want an immediate review of Officer Carter's history," she said. "Every stop, every report, every complaint filed against him." Her words sent a ripple through the room, and the officers nearby exchanged nervous glances. Ryan stood frozen, unable to respond. Captain Hayes snapped her fingers at another officer. "Pull his file. Now." Within minutes, Ryan's record was laid bare on the station's computer. A disturbing pattern emerged. Multiple stops of Latino and minority individuals for minor or fabricated infractions, an alarming number of use-of-force incidents, and even ignored warnings from supervisors. Each piece of evidence painted a clear picture of a man unfit for his badge. "Officer Ryan Carter," Elena began, her tone unwavering. "You've not only violated my rights, but also betrayed the trust of this community and the integrity of the police force. This ends now." Captain Hayes stepped in, pulling the badge from Ryan's chest with one sharp motion. "You're officially stripped of your badge and authority, effective immediately. Consider yourself suspended without pay, pending further charges." The room was silent except for the distant hum of the air conditioning. Ryan's face burned red as he stammered. But this isn't fair. I didn't know who she was." Elena turned to him, her expression both calm and cutting. "You didn't have to know who I was. You only needed to treat me with the respect and fairness every citizen deserves. And you failed." Meanwhile, the video of the arrest, which had already been spreading across social media, reached national news outlets. Headlines like "Racial Profiling Gone Wrong," "Cop Arrests Prominent Doctor and Justice in Action," "Corruption Exposed" flooded the internet. The public was outraged, and calls for systemic reform grew louder with each passing hour. Elena faced the cameras outside the station later that day, standing tall with Captain Hayes beside her. "This incident is not just about one bad officer," she said firmly. "It's about a culture that allows this behavior to go unchecked. That stops now. We will hold every officer accountable, starting here." The crowd cheered, their faith in change momentarily restored. Ryan, meanwhile, watched from the side, still in shock at how quickly his world had crumbled. The fallout. In the weeks that followed, the ripple effects of Ryan's actions were felt far and wide. The Austin Police Department launched a full-scale internal investigation, uncovering a troubling pattern of misconduct among several officers. Elena's case became a rallying cry for reform, sparking protests and demands for accountability across the city. Elena, now a prominent figure in the fight for justice, used her platform to advocate for systemic change. She spoke at town halls, appeared on national news programs, and worked closely with community leaders to push for transparency and accountability within law enforcement. Her calm demeanor and unwavering resolve inspired countless others to share their stories and demand change. Ryan, on the other hand, found himself isolated and disgraced. Stripped of his badge and facing criminal charges, he struggled to come to terms with the consequences of his actions. His once bright career was in ruins, and the weight of his mistakes haunted him daily. One afternoon, as Ryan sat in his small apartment, scrolling through the news on his phone, he came across an article about Elena. She was being honored at a national conference for her contributions to police reform. The photo showed her standing at a podium, her face lit up with a gracious smile as the audience applauded. Ryan froze, his stomach twisting in knots. The memory of that day in Willow Creek flooded back. Her calm warnings, the onlookers' protests, and his own hubris. His bitterness was evident as he clenched his fists, but deep down, regret began to creep in. He had no one to blame but himself. Underscore, 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 underscore. A new beginning. For Elena, the encounter with Ryan was a turning point. It reinforced her commitment to fighting for justice and equality, not just for herself, but for everyone who had been wronged by a broken system. She continued her work at the hospital, but her role as an advocate for reform became an integral part of her life. One evening, as she sat with her son Mateo at the dinner table, he looked up at her with wide eyes. "Mom, are you a hero?" he asked innocently. Elena smiled, brushing a strand of hair from his face. "I'm just someone who believes in doing what's right, Mijo. And sometimes that means standing up for others, even when it's hard." Mateo nodded, his young mind trying to process her words. "I want to be like you when I grow up." Elena's heart swelled with pride. "You can be anything you want to be, Mateo. Just remember to always treat people with kindness and respect, no matter who they are." Underscore, 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 underscore. The legacy. Months later, the reforms Elena had fought for began to take shape. The Austin Police Department implemented new training programs focused on de-escalation and implicit bias, and a civilian oversight board was established to review complaints against officers. While there was still much work to be done, the changes marked a significant step forward. Elena's story became a symbol of resilience and hope, reminding people that one person's courage could spark a movement. She continued to inspire others, using her voice to advocate for a future where justice and equality were not just ideals but realities. As for Ryan, he eventually found work as a security guard at a local mall, a far cry from the authority he once wielded. The weight of his actions stayed with him, a constant reminder of the consequences of prejudice and abuse of power. For Elena, the encounter with Ryan was not just a victory. It was a reminder that the fight for justice never truly ends. As she walked off the stage, she knew there was still much work to be done. Systemic change was a marathon, not a sprint, and she was determined to see it through. She returned to her work with renewed vigor, using her experience to inspire others and push for further reforms. Her story became a beacon of hope, a testament to the power of resilience and the importance of standing up for what's right. As for Ryan, he turned away from the TV, his shadow stretching across the asphalt. The sound of applause faded into the distance as he returned to his monotonous job, haunted by the choices that led to his downfall. For him, the fight was over, but for Elena, it was just beginning. Dear friends, Elena Martinez's story is not only a fight for justice, but also a powerful reminder of the power of courage and determination. Elena stood up against injustice, not only for herself, but for all those who have faced discrimination and abuse of power. She has become a symbol of hope and change, but her journey is not over. What can we learn from Elena's story? It is to never be silent in the face of injustice, and to always fight for a more just system. Let's support Elena by sharing her story, spreading the message of change, and adding our voices to the fight for a better society. Elena has done extraordinary things, but she cannot do it alone. We need to continue to support her by spreading the story, sharing videos and articles about Elena's journey to help more people know and join in. Join the movement. Join Elena in campaigns for justice and systemic reform. Spending emotional support. Sending words of encouragement to let Elena know she is not alone in this fight. Remember, every small action we take can make a big difference. Together, we can build a future where justice and fairness are paramount. Take action today for a better tomorrow.